there folks, Spencer Rempel here, the Moose Whisperer, coming at you with more great stories from the outdoors, hunting, fishing, hiking, trapping, and adventure, exploring. You know what? Today's story comes from me. Yeah, that's right. Thought I'd start out with my own story, and one of my greatest, in fact, because this story actually got me into the record books. Yeah. And, you know, I'm so proud of that. So proud. I made the British Columbia record books. I also made the Boone and Crocket, believe it or not. And I don't know, maybe I should just show you a little proof of that here. That there's the British Columbia record book. And then this one here, I couldn't help but put in a frame. That there is the Boone and Crocket. Made the all-time. So that's pretty something to be really proud of. And I'm happy to tell this story. Now, this story, though, although exciting, although fun, it kind of almost takes away from my accomplishment because I ended up just having a really good luck. But as they say, does good luck really exist, or is luck just a combination of being prepared and being there at the right time? That was me. I was prepared and I was there at the right time, and it worked out to be the perfect hunt. So let's get into it. The year is 1995. Yeah, that's a long time ago. I was 25 years old back then. I'm 55 years now. Anyways, it was, let's see, about February, I believe, of 1995, and I had always wanted to go cougar hunting. Now, I had a friend who lived in the area, and he loved cougar hunting. He was into it in a big way. His name was Thomas Schreiber. He was an outdoorsman to the max. This guy could hunt, fish, camp, bike, trail, hike, anything. If it was outdoors, he was out there doing it. He was just a dedicated outdoorsman, really, like almost like no other I've ever seen. A lot of success as well. Now, what he really wanted, what his greatest desire was, or I believe what he had told me at the time, was to get a record book cougar. So he had a truck, he had a kennel in the back where he had his dogs, and he always kept a German short-haired pointer that usually sat in the seat right beside him. And now that was his buddy, that was his friend, but then he kept 2 or 3 other hounds, because as you run hounds for cougars, you need a number of them so that the cougar, you know, remains scared, doesn't turn around and say, hey, I think I could take this guy. No, you need 3 or 4 hounds and make sure you scare that cougar and make him run up the tree. So like I said, always a German short-haired pointer that was his best friend, and then a couple of 2 or 3 other hounds, usually like Walker or Redbone. I think these ones were maybe a mix, but they were a solid dark reddish sort of color, making me think the Redbone. So in any case, great dogs are in the back of his truck. He comes to pick me up. Oh, no, I got to tell you, his goal was to get a record book cougar. So he had his hounds, he had his kennel, he had his truck, he had his rifle, he had everything in place. But you can only get 1 cougar a year where we're from in the Kootenays of British Columbia. So what he would do is he would take out other people, other hunters like myself, who didn't have all of those things and weren't able to just go out cougar hunting without having dogs and such. So he would take us out, and the deal was that once you got the cougar treed, he would come along and he would look at the cougar and he would size it up and he'd say, you know, well, that looks like an average cougar. You go ahead and take that one. Or he would look up there and he'd size it and gauge it and say, you know what, that looks like that could potentially be a record book cougar. So you're not going to take this one. This one's mine. I'll take you out another time. So fair's fair. I said, hey, no problem. I've never got a cougar before. I just want to get a cougar. Any size is going to be fine. So we made plans. He's coming to get me, like I said. I think it was a day in February. Cold day, lots of snow. That's just what you want. You got to have snow so you can track him. He comes to pick me up early in the morning. It was just getting light, maybe around 7 or 8 o'clock when he comes to pick me up in the morning, and he is excited. Now, first off, I should explain, this fella is German. He came from Germany. I think it was a kid, no, maybe a teenager when he moved here from Germany. So he still, you know, he had a pretty good, thick German accent. Spoke English perfectly, of course, but had quite an accent, which you might hear me say, I just can't help but speak his accent when I talk about Thomas. So anyway, Thomas shows up in the morning. He says to me, Spencer, I just seen the Cougar track crossing the road just 5 miles down the road. Oh, man, I'm so excited. Oh, okay, this is our day. This is going to be fabulous. So we hop in his truck, zoom down the road. No kidding, it was only maybe 5, 6, maybe 10 miles away to where these nice tracks and cross the road, obviously fresh. It had snowed just a little the night before. We were in some good deep snow already, and you could see that these tracks were fresh. They were left sometime within the night. So we took the dogs out. We got them, all the dogs on leashes, of course, because that's the way a cougar hound hunt goes to begin with. You have your dogs on leashes, keeping them close by, get them on the track, and then you can tell just how old that track is by the reaction of the dog. So he puts his dogs on the track and they are excited. They're like, they're starting to go crazy already. And so he's like, man, this cougar is close. These tracks are really fresh. I'd say it's within the last couple of hours or something for the dogs to have a reaction like this. We led those dogs a little bit in through the bush, had our rifles strapped on our backs, and we led them in through the bush for a little ways. And the dogs are just going even more crazy. They're starting to bark and really pull on that line. They want to get going. So we're like, okay, he says, listen, I'm going to let the dogs go. I think we're close. If we're close to that cougar, we're going to tree that sucker. We need to let these dogs go so they can get them treed. We run after them. Now, this is an exciting time. Like I said, I'm not a cougar hunter. I've hunted deer and elk and, all of these things before. But I'm always sitting quiet, waiting for it to come out. Cougar hunting is totally different. You're actually running through the forest. You're making as much noise as you want. The dogs are ki-yiing and howling, and you're actually running, trying to catch up to them, making all the noise you want. So that's exactly what happens. He lets the dogs go. They're gone. I think all 4 of them, 1, 2, 3, yeah, all 4 of them, they are gone after that cougar. So we're running as fast as we can through as fast as you can through bush and snow and up and down. This is Kootenai country. It's not that steep. We're in a level place, but lots of snow, fall downs and such as well. So we didn't have to go too far. Like we had maybe ran 5 or 10 minutes when those dogs, you can tell that they had treed it because their howl changes. There's like a chasing, baying howl that they make, and then when they get it up the tree, there's another sound. Their bay changes, and we could hear them just howling fairly close too. Thomas says to me, "I can't believe they treed the cougar already." Off we ran as fast as we could. We get all the way to the tree. It wasn't that far, and here it was. It was kind of a strange situation. We were on level ground, but the mountain started right there like this, and it was pretty darn steep. And out of that mountain had grown a tree, but the tree was at an angle like this. Okay, it had kind of sloped down through the years, and it was at quite an angle. The cougar had run up that tree like this. Okay, so I'm telling you this because by the time we get there, the cougar is hidden in some branches, a big cluster of branches up there. And we could just sort of see it, but we can't make anything out, hardly. You can kind of see, couldn't tell how big it was or not. We could tell it's a cougar, we could tell where it was, we could tell it was there, but we couldn't really see how big it was yet. When all of a sudden, one of the dogs climbs up the bank, gets onto the tree, and the tree not being too steep, the dog runs up the tree right into that clump of bush that the cougar is in, of those branches that the cougar is in. So then all of a sudden, not a word of a lie, that whole big bushes goes as that cougar let out a snarl like you never heard, and the whole thing shook. Well, that dog turned around and started coming back down the tree. Luckily, it didn't get the dog. But my hunting guide was getting pretty nervous. He was scared. He was really worried that dog was going to, that dog would get back up there and get killed by that cougar, knocked out of the tree and wounded or killed or something, hey? So without being able to see the cougar and with the danger of the dog and it potentially getting killed by the cougar or injured, Thomas says to me, Spencer, shoot the cougar! Shoot the cougar and don't shoot my dog! So I did. I brought up my gun. This is what I had. Great old Winchester 94 30-30, eh? I'll tell you a little bit more about that later. But I brought up my gun. You put it dead center in their chest, put the sights dead center in the chest. Boom. Pull that trigger and down that cougar comes. Whomp! He hits the ground there right in front of us. All the dogs are quickly right on top of it. Whew. Very exciting times. I'm smiling. I'm grinning from ear to ear. Hey, check it out. I got my first cougar. I look over at my hunting guide and friend, Thomas, and he's standing there looking a little like this. And I'm wondering what he's thinking, and all of a sudden he looks at me and he says, Damn, Spencer, that is a big cougar. So although he was happy for me, I could tell his disappointment of his plan of him always wanting to get a big cougar, and this had thrown that all off. So sure enough, we grab that cougar, we pull it. First, you get the dogs all off. We let the dogs have a little bit of time with it there to begin with as kind of a reward, and then you get the dogs off of it, and we dragged the cougar out of there. We brought him to his truck. We drove off to Thomas's place. We, clipped my tag, and we drove off to Thomas's place to hoist it up and start skinning. And we're also going to butcher this cougar up as well, because you have to eat what you kill. That's the way it is here in Canada. And I was happy to do so and happy to report the cougar tastes darn fine. It really does. We did them up. We cut them up in the little steaks there, and we did them like in a schnitzel type of thing, fried it up. You wouldn't believe how good it is. It's darn good. No kidding. Anyways, cleaned that cougar up, skinned them all out, butchered them all up during the day there, had a fabulous rest of the day. And so then what you have to do is to skin the head out so that you can have the skull. You need to boil that skull down, because how they measure the size of a cougar is just like how they measure the size of a bear for the record books. It just goes 100% by skull size. So you have to clean that skull all completely out, boil it out, no remains on it, and then it has to sit for 1 month. Because there is some shrinking that occurs. So you don't want to do it right away. Everyone has to let it sit a minimum of 1 month. Hey, I'll show you the skull. All right, this is exciting. This is one of the things I was really excited to show you, actually. Look at that. Hey? Isn't that neat? And you wonder, just how much a cougar can open his mouth. It's that much. And if you see what that is, you ain't gonna last long if a cougar comes for you, because that's exactly where he's biting, and his jaw and everything is made to be able to sink into that neck, twist and bite like you wouldn't believe, break the neck, tear it open. What it latches onto, it kills. Anyways, that's the skull. I let that sit for 1 month, and then I brought it down to local, actually a guy a little ways away, but I found a guy who was a record score keeper for the British Columbia record books. And I had that one entered into the record books. He took all the measurements from me and everything, and I ended up with this certificate. Hopefully you can see that. I'll show it up on the side if we can't. And my scoring is on that 15 5/16. I think that put me in. Okay. There we go. That is a rank of 21st. 21st largest cougar ever killed in British Columbia, which has got the biggest and best cougars. So I was so darn happy with that. Let me tell you. Poor Thomas never got in the record book. After all his effort, and I don't know how many cougar hunts that guy had been on, he actually never did make it into the record book. And I'm sad to say that Thomas, may he rest in peace, is no longer with us. Anyways, I sure wish he was. He'd love to hear this story. And then, you know what? It was years later, many years later, like 20 years later, that I decided, hey, you know what? If it makes the British Columbia record books, maybe I could be famous. Maybe I could go on and be in the Boone and Crocket. You always hear about the Boone and Crocket. I had some friends down in the States. It was their life's goal to be in the Boone and Crocket. I thought maybe I can be too. So I entered it in there. And I had to have it rescored by one of their official scorers, of course. Now, being 20 years later, it actually came out a different size. I can't believe it. But after that much time, that skull had shrunk, and I came out with a score of 15 3/16 instead of 15 5/16. So I'm actually registered in a British Columbia record book for a Cougar of 15 5/16, registered in the Boone and Crocket for a Cougar of 15 3/16. Makes it sound like I got two record book Cougars, but I in fact only got one. And there's a good lesson for anyone. If you're going to enter the record books, make sure you do it right after. Wait your 1 month of drying time on that skull, and then get everybody to do their measurements on that, because that was unfortunate that that I got knocked down by 2/16, which is quite a bit. But you know what? I still made the all-time records of North America big game Boone and Crocket. So that's my story, folks. I couldn't be happier. It was a bunch of good luck, but you know what? That's what a lot of hunting stories are. So let me hear your hunting stories, whether it be good luck, or maybe you spent your whole life chasing that great big buck or whatever it was, and you finally came home with your own trophy. Before I go, I did want to talk a little bit about the rifle that I used. That is a Winchester Model 94, and it's an old one too. This is actually my grandpa's 30-30. Okay, the good old 30-30. Now, you'd say, why would you use that old 30-30, Spence? I mean, what's the big deal about that? I mean, most people not even really using 30-30s anymore. They're not a long-range gun at all. You know, this gun, 30-30 has a range of everyone's going to write in the comments and freak out about this, but honestly, it has a range of about 100 yards. You know, after that, that bullet it's not a very fast moving bullet, and you don't have much range. Okay, but what I do want to say about this is it's the perfect cougar hunting gun. So first off, it's tough. It's tough as hell. Nothing jams it. You know, you don't want no semi-automatic or anything like that, because then you're running around in the bush and like you're running and flying through brush and over top of downfalls, and you need something that's really tough. You need something that's not going to jam up in any way, that when you need that shot, it's ready to go. 30-30, ready. That's nice, right? Even if you don't have one in the chamber, these lever actions are so reliable. So love this 30-30. What we actually do is you put a piece of tape over the edge. There's a piece of Scotch tape over the end here, and that stops it from jamming up with snow. So your bullet will pass right through that piece of tape. But if you were to get really clogged with snow so that the air couldn't come out, you can, of course, have a blowback and can be very, very dangerous. So that's one thing we do. We just put a piece of masking tape over top of there, just to keep the snow and the grime out, because you're barreling through the bush. So you need something that's a strong rifle. You need something that's going to work for sure, not get clogged up or jammed up in any way. You need something that's light, and heck, these are it's not a very big rifle. They're pretty nice and light, right? You can throw it over your shoulder, and whoops, there we go. That's what I meant to do. Throw it over your shoulder and run through the bush. You notice the barrel isn't sticking up high. You don't want a barrel sticking up high, as you try to go under the trees and you catch all of them and you just funneling snow right down your back. Isn't that the truth, eh? Who knows about that? And the 30-30 caliber is actually perfect caliber. If you're inside of 100 yards and you point this thing at something, it's going to be dead. 30-30 has a lot of hitting power inside that range. And guess what? When you're shooting at a cougar, you're at the bottom of the tree, he's at the top of the tree. You're never shooting more than 20, 30 yards at the very most, usually just within feet. So it doesn't have to have range. It has to be strong, it has to be tough, it has to have good killing power, and that's the Model 94 Winchester 3030. And that is the end of my story. Folks, I know you got a lot of stories. I know you want to tell your stories. You send them in to me, and I'll bring your stories to life. You can show them to the video to your friends, to your family, and it'll be there forever. And I think that's an important thing. We sometimes forget, you know what? We're older guys now. And when you tell your hunting stories to young people of the way it used to be, it's the way it used to be. Things have changed. It's not that way anymore. The good old days is back when we were hunting, back when I was 25. And we got some great stories to share with the world. So send in your stories with me. I'd be more than happy to share them. Thanks for watching, folks. Spencer Rempel, the Moose Whisperer. More stories to come.